Hi, Wendi Jensen, your faith transition coach here. I wanted to share a couple of things to help you recognize how you're doing on the journey. How to recognize when you know things are starting to shift and you're starting to feel better and starting to feel the weight and the burden of the faith crisis start to lift, and you're starting to feel more confident and strong in your journey. You know, faith crisis can be the best thing that ever happened to you. But if it's still feeling like the worst, it could be that there are just some little adjustments that you need to make and some more healing that needs to happen along the way. So I think by understanding what it feels like to be completely over this crisis and fully into transitioning, it might give you a picture of what you have to look forward to. So I wanted to share these things with you. First of all, you have an unflinching ability to discern what's good for you and what isn't. And you trust yourself. You have a great inner knowing of what's right and what's wrong for you. And you recognize much sooner when you're being manipulated by guilt or by shame or by obligation or by fear or by passive-aggressive behavior. And you become very comfortable with setting healthy boundaries and limitations, not just for you, but for your family. And you're letting people know what you will and what you will not put up with. You're lovingly and assertively communicating to people what you will and will not do. And you're not being rude or aggressive about it, but you're being clear about it so that people know that you are a person who knows what they want and that they will not be manipulated. You simply respect yourself enough to leave situations that just aren't making you feel good anymore. So if you are in church, or if you're in a group of friends and the conversation is getting uncomfortable, or somebody is bringing up an issue that you know you're kind of being manipulated, that you can get up and kindly say something and just leave, that you don't feel obligated to stay there. And you feel you can just remove yourself from situations. And that's when you know you're starting to access more of your personal power. You feel absolutely worthy about being heard, about being valued, and you understand that you are not half a person, or that there are other people with access to higher information than you that need to be respected and honored. And that you're not dependent on an organization or an outside source to help you be a whole person, or to help you make sure that you make accurate and choices in your life that won't lead you down a negative path, that you know how to make those choices on your own. You're a grown-up, you're an adult, and that you can make those choices and become successful on your own. You recognize that your previous people-pleasing behaviors were toxic and they're not working for you, and you recognize when you're trying to get someone's approval or their attention or their praise, or you recognize that in yourself, that you have some skills to do some self-actualization and go, okay, I'm trying to get someone's approval and their praise, and I'm not going to be doing that anymore. That needs to come from within, so that you aren't manipulating other people to think something of you that's not true. That's called growing up. So you also recognize that your inability to say no was contributing to the church taking advantage of you. And so that comes with setting those healthy boundaries. Another thing is you're realizing that your relationship with the church was never really a two-way street. That they were gaining far more by you capitulating and becoming very obedient than you ever were by you participating. And so you're harnessing and you're using your energy and your resources to actually grow and produce a life that feels right for you, instead of putting all that energy into what it is they want you to do. You no longer minimize or make excuses for someone else's bad behavior. You recognize when you're in situations where you feel you have to walk on eggshells with people, or you can't say things the way, you can't talk about the elephant in the room. When you're in situations with people who are like that, that you're associating with people who don't have healthy emotional boundaries, and they're not emotionally stable, and that it's not you. that if you can't talk about what needs to be talked about and you can't speak to the elephant in the room, that it's not your fault. It's the people in the group in the room that has a problem. You feel confident about lovingly confronting someone about about your own questions or uncertainty. And you might, when you have those questions and that uncertainty, you don't feel guilty about it. And you don't need to take responsibility for their emotional state when you ask it, especially when you're not trying to give offense and you're not trying to hurt and you're being thoughtful and respectful. You're not taking responsibility for their high emotion behind it. You don't feel guilty for disconnecting from or making strong boundaries with people who are toxic. You don't feel obligated to continue having relationships with people who are toxic just because they think they're in authority over you. You won't be susceptible to superficial flattery or charm or charisma or praise. You don't need it anymore because that's coming from within. You'll be able to assess situations more objectively and use your critical thinking skills and to be more reasonable and to be able to let outside information and challenges challenge your beliefs. And you're always in a state of, maybe I was thinking wrong, instead of always defending your beliefs, always looking at your beliefs and considering all different angles. That means you're really growing up and you're becoming a high-functioning being. Yay, you! Congratulations! You won't invest yourself into relationships that make you feel drained. Not just relationships, but callings and jobs that make you feel drained, misdirected, obligated, confused, exhausted, in doubt, or questioning your own self-worth. You don't need to participate in those activities or in those relationships. You don't fear your insecurities being exploited. Otherwise, you're not hiding who you are inside anymore. You understand that your vulnerabilities, your insecurities, your flaws are what make you lovable. And they're acceptable. And you're okay just who you are. You don't have to hide anything about you. That you're a good person. And it's okay to be imperfect. And you're no longer betraying your gut instincts. Your conscience is supreme. What you feel is right. You're listening to that voice and you're knowing your conscience is important to you and you're not shutting that off to try and align and capitulate with doctrines or with the church or with the brethren. Another thing is you're starting to feel more directed and guided in your own life instead of trying to look in some other outside source to be guided and directed. You're not frustrated or angry that others aren't on your same path. See, in the beginning, you feel so isolated and so alone when those around you don't see what you can see. But as you're transitioning and you're really starting to grow and develop, you're okay with where everyone else is on your journey. If they're still inside the church, you're okay with that. And you don't need them to validate you or see you or understand where you're at or agree with you. That's when you know you're starting to heal. When you're having that feeling that you need to be understood and you need to be validated, that's what creates so much stress in your mind and creates a crisis and depression and frustration and anger and a lot of emotional unrest. And so when you can be okay that people don't understand you and okay that you don't need to be understood because you are trusting deep down inside, I can trust myself. I can trust myself to navigate my own life and to agree or disagree with certain things. Then you know you are on the path to really taking charge of your own life. Yay, you! You're free to share what's on your mind. And you don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to hide your thoughts. You do need to be respectful and kind, and you are mature enough to be sensitive to the needs of the people in a room, and you can be diplomatic in how you're communicating with others, but you don't have to hide your thoughts because you're afraid that they disagree with the group think. Then you know you're really growing up. And you don't, let's see, I kind of repeated that already. You aren't offended or hurt by other people's insensitive comments. That happens a lot in the beginning when you're just first waking up out of the paradigm. And you start to realize how insensitive people are who are still in the religion. And it's like a slap to the face. You realize, oh my goodness, they're so judgmental and so rude and so arrogant. And it can be unnerving. But as you grow and you transition out, you realize that it's really just kind of ignorant and innocent. And it's not bothering you anymore. Then you know you're really starting to grow up and develop and becoming really mature with your transition. And you don't need to speak to it all the time. Or when you do speak to it, you can speak to it in a way that honors the person and helps them understand how they're being insensitive, rather than laying it out there in a way that just totally alienates them or hurts their feelings. Another thing is that you're no longer focused on whether or not the church is changing. Your happiness is not determined on whether or not the church is going to own their stuff or whether they're going to change. That you literally are so focused on your own life and where you're going that you're not so focused on whether or not the church is going to change. You might keep an eye on it. You might always be a little bit invested because you have family members in there, but you're not so absorbed in it and listening to podcasts 24/7, and you're just not super invested anymore because you are creating the life of your dreams, and you're not bonded with the church in a toxic way anymore. You completely trust yourself to make whatever decisions that you need to make. Your life doesn't revolve around your ability to gain someone else's approval or attention or affection or love. And you're not addicted to trying to gain favor with the church or the authorities or the people within the group. You aren't afraid to show up at a highly populated religious event wearing clothes that might reveal that you are no longer subscribing to the religious paradigm anymore, and you're not feeling guilty and you're not feeling inferior. That you can confidently sit there and reveal that I love all of you and I'm okay with where you're at, and I'm okay that you might be judging me and you might have some condemning thoughts about me, but I'm okay with that and I can love you anyway. You're growing up and you're starting to just feel more confident within yourself. Also, let's see, your relationships aren't based on you trying to prove your loyalty to the church anymore. You are free to lovingly and respectfully share your authentic but possibly conflicting opinions about without the responsibility of offending close friends and family. Otherwise, you're taking responsibility. You're not taking responsibility for everyone's emotions and all their tender feelings about their beliefs. You're letting them have their beliefs and you're letting them have their own feelings, and you're not like pushing and digging and always bringing it up, but you're okay to differ and you're okay to share your opinions, and you're not taking responsibility for their tender emotions. You aren't sacrificing your plans or your dreams and your preferences to meet the expectations of the church. This is the fun one. All your new relationships are built on genuine sincerity, authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, and mutual heartfelt sharing. Not fear or uncertainty or obligation because we're of the same religion, or neediness or desperation or insecurity. This is what's so beautiful, is that the people that you meet in your everyday life, you don't have this sense of superiority because you have something they don't. And you don't feel the sense of obligation that you need to get to know them just so you can share the gospel and get them to join you in your thinking. That you can genuinely look at them eye to eye and see that being as your equal and just get to know them for who they are. And that is, to me, is one of the most beautiful things about transitioning out of a religious paradigm that feels that they are the one and only true path. Let's see. You'll begin to notice that your intuition, your self-love, your self-worth, your self-confidence are beginning to increase. And the main sign that you're healed from your religious abuse is when you have developed a knowing that you are no longer going to diminish your inner wisdom, that you're not going to betray your conscience, and you're not going to give away your gifts and your talents and your God-given uniqueness to accommodate the needs and the self-imposed values and expectations that the church has put upon you, that you can actually be the sovereign authority of your life and direct your life in a way that you see is fit, that you can directly connect to that inner source within and know what it is that you have come to share with the planet and freely share it in a way that feels right for you. That's when you know that you are truly healed and you are truly moving forward. So I hope this video has helped you to get a view of what's available once you've healed from your transition and out of the toxicity of some manipulative religious indoctrination. If you would like any more information about how to transition and how to heal from faith crisis or how to move forward, you can get a copy of my book, A Peculiar Transition, Healing the Trauma of Mormon Faith Crisis, and the link to get that book is down below. Or you can join my email list for more information. Or if you are really struggling and you are looking for a faith transition coach, you can sign up to get a free strategy session down below and see if you'll be a good fit for my online course. And if any of these things can help you, it is my joy to help you regain your joy. Thank you for watching. Take care.